Hi everyone, welcome back to part 2 of week 2 of the podcast, and today's topic is an introduction to death and dying practices. Now in the West, generally people think of death and dying as a somewhat taboo subject. If you've ever, experienced the loss of a loved one or had to look after somebody who's dying, especially if it's a very difficult, painful death, you will know it can be a very grim, difficult experience. The problem is if we make it taboo, the whole subject, the dying, our dying, the fact that we are going to die and the fact that our loved ones have left, if we make it taboo, then we don't seek a way to deal with it. And there are, in fact, many, many practical ways to deal with all the aspects of death and dying. We cannot stop the process of death, this is for sure. We cannot tell when we are going to die or our loved ones are going to die. And if it's written that we are going to die or our loved ones will die at a certain time, then it's extremely unlikely we can change that time, that date, that exact moment. It's going to happen whether we try to stop it or not. So rather than treat it as a taboo subject or something we will deal with when we're older, it really helps us in life, helps the other beings who have passed over, and it helps people who we have to help during the dying process as well. And it will definitely help us for our destiny, for our long-term evolution and enlightenment. There are three, we could say, categories of these kind of practices. And the first one is, how do I prepare for my certain death before it happens? It's going to happen, could happen today, could happen in a month, or it could happen in 50 years, but it will happen. So what are the things I can do to prepare for it? Practically speaking, what can I do? Okay, the second category is at the time of death, at the moment of death, what do I do with my mind? What do I do during that process? And what do we know about that time? What has been taught by beings that we can trust, enlightened beings about this, that we can trust, that we can use to help us during that time? We know it's going to be the most powerful moment of our life after birth, but we cannot remember our birth normally, but we are going to be fully present during the death experience, because everything will be torn away except for immediate consciousness. So what can we do during that period, that time? Then the third aspect is other people's death. How can I help people who are dying, or my loved ones or the people I know? How can I help them prepare for death, to be with them during the dying process? And equally importantly, what about my loved ones who have passed away, or my ancestors? Is there a way to, one, to help them, and two, to see them again? So obviously this is a big question that everybody has. Okay, your husband or your wife dies, or your parents die. Oh, I will see them again. Many people say, when I die, I will see them again. I will meet again with them, in the heaven, or we will meet again in the next life, depending on people's belief system. So what can we do to ensure that we meet again, and also that we can help them before we meet again, wherever they are now? What can we do? So these are the three big subjects, and each of them, I could write a book about. So let's at least have a look at some basic concepts and practices that you can immediately put into effect. So the first thing to understand is that we are existing in a endless wheel of suffering. And this is not my words. This is the words of the Lord Buddha and his enlightened disciples over the last 2,500 years. They are beings of enormous integrity, truth, wisdom. So when they say things like this, it's not a fairy tale. This is just relating the nature of existence, the phenomenal universe. So we have a endless wheel of suffering, or this realm of existence is full up with suffering. I'll explain more about the suffering bit later, but it's divided into 6 realms. So at least this is the Buddhist cosmology and generally the Hindu cosmology as well. These 6 realms of suffering, in brief, are first of all the realm of hell. So the hell beings, and by the way, it's not necessarily on this planet, it's just general realms throughout the whole of the massive existence. So the hell realm is a realm of enormous, intense suffering. Even in our Western Christian thinking, nobody wants to go to hell. It's an awful place. So beings are often take rebirth there when they've done extremely malicious things that involve taking life and so on. Now, the subject of where beings take rebirth according to their actions and their thoughts, we will look at another day because it's very involved. But at least we know that our mind, the state of our mind at the time of death, and the karma we have accrued or developed over our lifetime and all the previous lifetimes will determine where we will go. So it's not random. We go somewhere to put it one way, to burn off a certain heavy karma that we've accumulated. So the hell beings suffer intensely, and just above that level is the level of the hungry ghosts, and they are also suffering greatly, but not to the same degree as the hell beings. But they are suffering. They have a little more freedom, but they struggle enormously to get nourishment, for example. So they're said to have very tiny mouths and very long necks, so that if they do manage to find a speck of food anywhere, it takes long time to get down to them and give them nourishment. But this is just a way of explaining that they are their nature, the hungry ghosts, they are always craving for more nourishment. They can't get enough nourishment, so they're suffering a lot. Then above that level of existence is the level of the animals. And this is interesting because as humans, we cannot really see hell beings. We cannot see hungry ghosts. Although we can see other human beings who seem to be living in hell. I don't need to explain, what these kind of beings may be, but people who are suffering intensely often will say, I feel like I'm suffering in hell, even while they're humans. Or people who are always never satisfied, always needing to grasp more, eat more, and but they're never full up, they're never satiated. So we could say they are hungry ghosts whilst they're living in a human body. But it's also an actual realm outside of this existence. So as humans, we can only see, generally, animals. We can see another realm that coexists, interfaces, intermerges with our own realm of existence, which is the human realm. So we have hell realm, the most dense. Then above that, the hungry ghost realm. Then the human realm, animal realm, and then the human realm, which is our realm. And we can see animals, and we can see that they are suffering. Many animals are suffering, living lives of, fear. Even birds and bugs and creatures like this, always fearful for being attacked, killed, eaten, and so on and so on. There's very, very few animals, maybe the eagle, maybe the tiger, that are at the top of the food chain, and even they are prey for humans, or they can be attacked by other creatures. So we have the animal realm, and then the fourth realm, the human realm. And the human realm is important in as much as it is the realm from which we can attain full enlightenment. In fact, according to some teachings, it's the only realm, and that the higher realms cannot give us the situation, the facilities to realize enlightenment, because there's too much happiness, too much pleasure in the higher realms. So this human realm is a mixture of happiness and joy and suffering. And we have, long moments, long times of joyfulness, but inevitably there are times of suffering. Okay, then the next level is often translated as something like the jealous gods, or the titans, or the angry gods, but they're basically incredibly intelligent, powerful beings, far beyond human beings, with immense lifespans, in comparison to ours. But as the name suggests, they have a mind of conflict. They have a mind of wanting to fight. So in terms of transposing the six realms onto human society, we can see this with certain kind of people that they have great power, but they still want to fight. They have great intelligence. We can't say they're stupid, but they still want to attack other beings, other countries. So in fact, all of the different realms we can see here, although they are outside as well. Animals, we can see people who live like animals despite being humans, that don't seem to have many truly human or humanitarian qualities. We can see beings who are like angry gods. They have all the wealth, all the power, but they still have to fight. And then the sixth level of existence is the basically the gods, the Brahma worlds, or the higher gods, and they are beings of great purity and enormous, inconceivably long lifespans, where there is such a fine level of existence that it's what we would call heaven. The problem is of this realm is that they are still going to die, because there are traces of old karma that when their lifespan is exhausted, and that lifespan is unimaginably long, you're talking countless millions of years, with all perfection of their body and their mind and their intelligence. Hard to imagine, right? This kind of level of existence, but it's real. So it's almost like for a person who's in a terribly bad health condition, living in a terrible slum with, a couple of handfuls of rice a day, turning on a television and seeing, the life of the rich and famous. That's a tiny, that's too small a comparison, but you get the idea, is that as humans, no matter the most opulent lifestyle here would be nothing compared to that place. And there's virtually no suffering. People live in complete safety. There's no fear of violence and things like that. But there is one dark cloud there, is that those beings also will die at some point. And imagine dying after that millions of years of opulence and pleasure, and suddenly you're thrown into death, the uncertainty. Where will you go? And all the other beings that you've lost, that you love, they love you. you've gone. Tumbling back down. It's like that game Snakes and Ladders. Do you remember, where you get all the way to just before the top, the end of it, and suddenly you get the snake and you slide all the way back to the beginning. So this is the level of the Brahma gods, the higher gods, still within the system of suffering that is samsara, the wheel. What a setup! What a design this is. That if we did not have the teaching how to leap beyond samsara, it would seem like the most awful situation, unless you happen to be, in the beginning of a Brahma god lifespan, and then you may feel, oh, it's okay, I have a few million years. But even then, you have the uncertainty of death. And certainly for almost all beings, imagine beings suffering in the realm of hell, the hungry ghosts, the animals, awful, awful suffering. Many humans, I'm sure all of you listening to this have suffered at some point things that you would not wish on anybody, whether that's the loss of loved ones, or a fear, or being bullied, or violence, or sickness, pain, or addiction, whatever it is. Humans also have intense suffering. So this dukkha, the word used in Buddhism, dukkha, means unease, dis-ease, or stress, or normally translated as suffering. And in the Buddha Dharma, it says that there is not a single place in the universe, in the 6 realms of existence, where dukkha does not exist. And even if you could find it, that there was one tiny place with no dukkha, there would still be the stress of impermanence, of change. Meaning that, yes, now you feel incredibly fantastic. It will change. You will suffer again. You will feel stressed, suffering, pain, loss, sorrow, all of these things. So if this is the realm in which we live, and we're thrown time and time again, almost like around a wheel of gambling, one of those casino wheels, where the marker ends up, you don't know where it's going to end up. It's just like you're flung around this wheel, and you could end up anywhere depending on where you've been pushed by your previous actions, previous thoughts, your state of consciousness. So we are going to die and then be reborn. Now, this is a very long and involved topic. As I said, I could write books about each one of these subjects, but the 3 main topics we're going to discuss. First one is how to prepare for our own death, and what can we do before the time of death and dying for ourselves to prepare. And then the second thing is, what can we do at the time of our death? What do we know about that time, and what can we do? And the third aspect is, how can we help our loved ones, our friends, people we know who are dying, or who will die, which is all of them, or after they've died, even people we've never met, our ancestors. Is there a way to contact them and to be, very importantly, reunited? Is it possible to be reunited? Okay, let's go back to the first one, is for our own preparation. Very first thing is, we have a daily practice when we contemplate, consider the fact that we are going to die. This is super, super important. We are going to die, and nothing is going to stop it. Nothing will delay it. And it could be in 1 minute time. We don't know. Okay, nobody likes to think about that. So having at least a short meditation every day that we understand death is certain, and it's unknown as to the time, place, and manner. We could die an awful death in absolute agony, or slow, protracted death over many days, which is an incredible struggle. We could die in our sleep, in which case we miss the chance to be fully conscious when we pass. So how do we deal with this? First thing is start to treat it seriously, that you are going to die, okay, and make it very clear in your mind. So the more you meditate on this, the more you understand, I need to stop being frivolous in my life. I need to do practice that will help me attain enlightenment, wisdom, internal power to deal with this. So we start to take life more seriously by having a daily practice of death, of understanding, contemplating death. Death means our physical body will be torn away from us. Our present personality will be torn away from us. So the second thing to do is to start looking inwards through meditation at who you really are, who I really am. So in the Buddha Dharma, there's many contemplative methods. For example, Guang'an or Koan in Zen or Chan practice. Who is dragging this corpse around? This is a very powerful koan. Who is dragging this corpse around? Because it does simultaneously remind you of the fact that you are just waiting to die. Your corpse is just waiting to turn to dust or to ashes. And also that you are not this corpse. So who is dragging this corpse around? So this is a practice, a very powerful practice, and do take care when you do these kind of practices that you have a very good basis in ethics. That means that you are following the principles, at least some principles of ethics, as we could say as a safety net. If you're on a tightrope, which is equivalent to doing these kind of meditation practices, and you fall off, that means that you become disturbed, because you suddenly realize, wow, I've been going through life thinking I was eternal in this body, in this personality. And suddenly I realize you truly, truly realize from the depth of your being that you are not this Alex character, this John character, this David character. That's a bubble, a dream, an illusion, a phantom being, a mask. It's a projection that we put out into the world for other people to recognize us so that we feel more secure, more safe in this world of change. So if I'm not this being, I'm not this material body, who am I? Well, this is exactly the practice. Who am I? So there are many, many different ways of approaching this. According to different Buddhist traditions, they will have much slower ways and much faster ways. But whichever, you need to have a good base of following ethical principles so that becomes your safety net, so that if you do get disturbed, you can just easily rest back in this safety net of being honest, being kind, not treating people badly. And this is your castle that you can always come back to. So these are the first couple of things, is starting to take your death as a real thing. And second, find out who are you beyond the physical body and personality. Because at death, what is going to survive? What is going to still be in existence? It's not this body, and it's not this Alex character, and it's not any memory or idea of who we are. Oh, but I'm this type of person. I'm this memory. I've done this. I've accomplished this. I've got this title. All of that at the moment of death will be completely meaningless. So find out who you are. At least start to investigate. Find out who you are. Okay, then another thing is a very practical thing. It's get your affairs in order so that at the time of death, you don't have to spend time worrying. The last thing you want if, for example, you know that you are on the way out of this life, you have 3 days left. The last thing you want is to be worrying about, your will, what you're going to do with your money, your house, your assets, and so on. How many times do you see this? That even before somebody has died, especially the more wealthy a person is, the worse it becomes. But it happens at every level of society, is that the family will start bickering over who's going to get this, who's going to get that, who will inherit this. And even after the death of a person, they will go to court to argue about it. So make sure you determine before, as much as you can. Nope, this will go to you, this will go to you, this is going to them, and that it's very clear, everyone knows you're in your right mind. Then, at the time of death, you don't have to worry about that. And along with this, on very similar lines, is that you now, because death may come anytime, now you make it very clear to people, if you need to tell them, I love you. I really love you. You're very meaningful to me. I really feel gratitude for what you did for me. Whatever the relationship, doesn't have to be family, could be your colleagues, your students, your teachers. But you don't want to be dying and have regret that you never told somebody, or worse, that you argue. You've got a grudge against somebody, they've got a grudge against you, you haven't talked for years, deep down you really want to tell them, you're sorry, or how much they mean to you. Do it now, because we honestly don't know when our time will come. And I have a few stories about this based on personal experience and the people close to me, that I've seen that at the most unexpected time, death can come. And often it leaves in its wake many things left unsaid that should have been said. So this is no small thing. This is an important thing. Get your affairs in order. Get your heart, your emotions in order. So those at least are dealt with. Because what you're going to have to face at death, you don't have time, you don't have room, you don't have energy to want to, to have to deal with those things. That's all your energy is going to be focused on safely taking yourself to a better destination. So those are a few things. And one more thing, if you follow a particular practice, for example, you're Buddhist or you're Taoist or you're Hindu, for me, I have a Buddhist altar, but set up some kind of altar or shrine, or it could just be a very small place in your home that has a symbolic book, a particular sacred book or statue or icon, or something related to what is sacred to you, what is eternal, what is connected to the spirit, and make that your shrine. Then every day go there, and when you go there and you give your you either you say your prayers or you take your vows, that becomes your shelter, and you relate that to at the time of death. When you do face death, then you will have the same quality of mind, that when you stand peacefully, centered, powerfully in front of your shrine or altar, then that can be a moment akin to when you're going to die. When you die, you want those qualities. You want to be remembering the part of you that's eternal. You want to be remembering the Buddha, or whatever it is that you relate to the sacred, to the spiritual. As I said, you don't want to be looking back to your life and worrying about people. So take care of your affairs now to the best you can. Teach people what you need to teach, and set up the protections you need to protect for your family in case you go at any time. So the shrine is important. And when you go there every day, there's several things we can do. So one of them is you determine where you would like to take rebirth. For example, you want to take rebirth in a certain family, or with a certain teacher, master, great master, enlightened master, or in a certain community, spiritual community, or in a certain country, or a certain sacred mountain, or temple, whatever it is, particular to your desire and your direction, your destiny. Then, of course, you can leave it to chance, just random, depending on your karma. Yes, it will take you somewhere, but you can also help the process by saying, for example, okay, I vow that immediately upon leaving my body, I will take rebirth in that family, or that lineage of practitioners, or that temple on that mountain. Okay, make it very specific. And then at various times in the day, you can contemplate that. That's right. If I die now, I'm going to take rebirth there. Make sure it's a place that you really want to take rebirth, because if it works, you will end up there. You might not be born exactly on that place, but you will be born in a way and a place and a time that you will be led there. So your destiny will be entwined with that place. And of course, if you're going to do this kind of vow, it's because it's meaningful to you. So you are already part of that tradition. You are already in that lineage. You are already, you love that particular culture or country or spiritual group or tradition. So these are things we do before death comes, before the dying stage comes, whilst we have time. While we are young enough and healthy enough, whilst we have time, then do these. Don't wait until the last minute. I'll do it when I start to feel my energy's going. No, of course not. You want to do it while you have internal power, while you have the ability to focus. Because sometimes it's not just immediate death, it could be disease. It could be a debilitating disease of whatever your functions, your mental, your cognitive functions, your heart or kidney functions, that leave you feeling completely without energy. And then, no matter your best intentions, you won't have the oomph, the internal power or the focus to do these kind of practices. Okay, so that's today is just an introduction to the first part, which is preparing before we die, preparing whilst we are in good health. And then next week, I'm going to continue by discussing what to do at the time of death, and also how to help our loved ones and ancestors who have already died, or who we see going through the dying and death process. Okay, everyone, thank you for joining me again on this second week, and wish you all very good training. Keep well, and I'll be back again next week.